Volume is a different beast. It's happened to me again. So I've done 3 days in a row of hitting 3x5 at 80%. 3 days in a row I've done that. And today is the fourth day, and I called it off. I called it off again. Same thing happened last week. I did 3 days in a row, and the fourth I had to call it off. I called it off because I wasn't feeling right. The squats were kind of feeling wonky, out of position, not a good feeling, too much in my hips, nothing in my legs. I feel like I was squatting with vertical shins. Loss of mobility through the ankle, through the hip. Everything was locking up, hip internal rotation, just very, very stiff hips, very stiff body. So for that reason, I decided to try and see if I can do deadlifts first. Maybe the deadlifts will open me up. They didn't. Deadlifts felt good. There was a lot of leg drive, which is interesting. Really feeling strong off the floor in the deadlift, but in the squat, complete loss of range of motion, stiff hips, stiff ankles, all that stuff. So worked up to 240 with the deadlift, went to the squats, and you'll see in a second, the moment I started squatting the bar, I thought it was the pants again. Those damn pants, I got to throw them in the bin. I don't know if my legs are getting bigger or what's going on, but I can't squat in these pants anymore, man. Like they feel like they're painted on me. They just lock me up. Anyway, so I pulled the pants up, and that didn't help me either. Legs were really, really stiff. So I, put on a plate, 2 plates, felt a little bit better. But the moment I kind of started feeling the bar and the first plate, the second plate, I knew I wasn't going to do any serious squatting today. Worked up to 190 kilos for one. That kind of felt crap, felt like a grinder. There was no proper positioning. I was very leaned over. I was very much in my hips. Kind of resembled like a freaking deadlifter. It was that kind of squat, kind of like a low bar squat. And when I feel that, I don't get excited about that. It's just basically a day for rest, a day for not pursuing volume in the squat. Hit 190 and I called it there. And so from that moment on, all I had in my mind was, okay, I need to work on my posterior chain because I can't even get to my anterior chain. The quads are stiff. They're not allowing me to kind of go into them in the squat. And so when that happens, all I can really do is work on the hip hinge. So I went into the rack pulls. I haven't done rack pulls for a whole bunch of time. Rack pulls are a little bit easier on the whole system compared to deadlifts off the floor. I wanted some volume, and so I did rack pulls, but this time I did rack pulls without the lockout because I feel like when I lock out, there's a lot of back, there's a lot of lumbar kind of extension at the top, so I try to avoid that so I don't kind of fry my erectors, and it worked really well. All of the tension was in the glutes and hamstrings. So that was kind of really good. I worked up to 220 for one and a half rep. The second one was not complete. So that was kind of good. And after that, I just went home. Today was the body's telling me you need to rest. So I kind of did that. There was no point of chasing a body like this. It's funny to me because 3 days in a row I can hit 3x5, and on the fourth my body kind of runs out of steam. You guys know that I auto-regulate and, I kind of listen to the body. Yesterday, I felt good. The squats kind of felt more in my quads. Today, the squats were feeling all in my hips. Literally, my quads feel like, I don't know, maybe the fascia is locked up, the body's locked up to protect them because I've done a lot of work. So tomorrow, I'll come in and I'll see how I feel tomorrow. I dare say I'll probably feel a lot better and a lot more into my legs. But when squats, to me, become all hip drive, might as well freaking do deadlifts at that point. Like, what's the point? What's the point of having the bar on my back? That's kind of how I feel because my pursuit is this particular idea of how I want to squat. And when I feel that I can't even engage the muscles that I want to engage, basically the body's telling me I'm tired. It's funny. Out of all the things in life, I've spent so much time with the squat, and as much as I wanted this to be true, it can't be true. The more you squat, the more your squat becomes a deadlift. And for a lot of us who want to develop a really good squat, I don't know about you guys, but I've felt this numerous times through this program and also previously. The harder I push the squat, the more I get away from the optimal positioning of the squat, and then the squat becomes something else. The form changes the more volume you throw at it because the muscles you start to lose mobility, you start to lose hip internal rotation, as you kind of throw in big volume in the squat. And so you need to counter that. You have to counter that, and the best way I know how to counter it is to do pulling. Lots of hamstring work, lots of kind of adductor work to kind of free that up. If you just focus on big volume in the squat, you can do it for 3-4 days, and just like me now, you rock up on the 4th day and you feel like you just can't get into those positions. You just can't, your body won't let you. And so at that point, yeah, you can slide the bar down into a low bar squat, but you're kind of evolving away from what you started out with. So in a weird way, you're kind of gaining strength, you're gaining kind of volume, into a particular squat, and then you start to lose range of motion, and that range of motion forces you into a kind of more leaned over hip dominant squat. And then I guess if you continue pushing that type of squat, then you end up freaking doing something that resembles very much a deadlift. So I had to take a bit of a deload today in terms of the squat volume, and I just filled that same bottle of volume with a different type of volume, which was the rack pulls. My body feels really good in a hip hinge position, but the legs are tired. I think they're tired. I mean, I don't get DOMs anymore, so I don't have that, feedback mechanism to tell me, okay, it's my quads that are fatigued and my body's kind of protecting them, making me use more hip drive. I don't get that sensation anymore, so I kind of have to work it out. And sometimes, you can stretch half an hour before the squat session to kind of get into that position, but it's not natural, and the body is moving away from it for a reason. And so I'll take that as, well, the body wants a bit of a rest from the volume. I'll move away from it, and I'll attack what the body wants me to attack. And it was that damn bent over position, the rack pulls. You'll see the rack pulls, I tried to, like I said, avoid the upper portion of the deadlift. So it was all kind of hamstrings. It was all glutes. I first remember seeing George Lehman do this. Now he did it kind of like an RDL, so not even touching the bar on the pins at all. He just did, like, he would basically start him and then walk it out of the rack, and then just basically bounce in this kind of range of motion, maybe a hand below and a hand above the knee, and he would just kind of smash it in there, and he would do some stupid like 600 pounds or something even more than that. I mean, he's a big boy, very, very strong. So I kind of did it like that. If I had tonight again, I'll probably do it like an RDL, like a really, really heavy RDL. For some reason, I wanted the thought was I wanted the security of the rack. I don't know. The idea for me was I wanted to do hamstring and glutes only, and I wanted to stay away from quads and the lower back. So I kind of did it with the pin, like a rack pull without the top portion, which is basically an RDL, just in a rack pull kind of version. So anyway, basically that's what happened today. I'm tired. I'm very, very tired. Volume is a different freaking beast. I did 200 kilos for I think 16 or 17 days in a row, and during that stretch I felt good. I was doing pin squats. I was doing my squats with very little volume in there. Very, very little volume. Now I'm on annual leave again, and I'm going after volume this time, not so much the intensity, and my body just needs to catch up. Like literally, I can do 3 days, and then the 4th, I'm out. So even though you kind of need volume to build, volume is very, very heavy on your metabolic kind of side, and also the nervous side as well, because some of my parts of my body are kind of tapped out. I can't even access my quads in my squat anymore. So I think tomorrow when I come in, hopefully I'll be able to kind of get in more quads. So sometimes, I don't know if you guys, sometimes when I go into the bottom portion of my squat, sometimes I feel I can use my quads out of that position, and usually I can. But today I kind of got in the bottom of the squat, and you can see how slow I was getting out of with the 190. It felt as though it was just basically all posterior chain, because the shin angle is so vertical. I couldn't kind of advance. And a lot of people would say, oh, that's your ankles. And of course, it is an ankle, and that's the symptom, loss of dorsiflexion. But for me, it all starts with the hip, man. If my hips are good, and I've got plenty of internal hip rotation. I've got dorsiflexion, and a lot that doesn't make sense, and I don't know what the mechanism is other than that it's the fascia acting as a result of tight hips. Once your hips get locked up and tight and you lose range of motion through the hips, the fascia communicates with the rest of the body, upstream and downstream. And so that's been my experience, that if you sit down on the couch before you go to the gym and you just do a passive hip rotation test, internal, and you can do external as well, and you got like 0 degrees internal, which was basically me today, you can bet your bottom dollar you're not going to have dorsiflexion. Now, I think that's as a result, like I said, of the fascia communicating, getting tight, because the fascia is kind of like your hips get tight and your hips start to pull on all structures everywhere, up above and below. And it pulls the fascia with it, right? It pulls the slack out of the fascia, and then you basically lose that fascia, I guess, length in the hamstring, which spills over to the calf, and then voila, you don't have dorsiflexion. I also tested out my hamstring length today before I went to the gym, and it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. And so put those two things together, you have loss of dorsiflexion. So you can go ahead and work on your dorsiflexion. My experience is you are just trying to treat the symptom and not the cause. The cause is the hips, in my experience. Now, you can get momentary kind of release of the ankle, but for me, the bang for your buck is all down into the hips. It all starts there. Because if I think about it, why would the ankle get locked up with lots of squatting? On day 1 of this stretch, I had really good dorsiflexion. And then as day 2 came, day 3 came, now day 4, I've got loss of dorsiflexion. What have I been doing? I've been doing lots of squats. Your ankles don't get freaking DOMs from doing lots of squats. It's your hips, especially if you're going ass to grass. Your hips get trashed. And so that's what I think the cause is. It's kind of anti-intuitive to think there's a symptom at the foot and the cause is like on the top of your head. Like, what the hell is going on? It's kind of like really far away. The hips and the ankles seem to be not related, but it's weird, man. The body's really, really weird, man. I've triaged people with toothaches and they've ended up having heart attacks. Referred pain. The body is weird. It's not like a machine. Sometimes even cars are weird, man. Like, they start making these sounds and you think it's the engine, but it's not. So, I've triaged all sorts of people and, always kind of follow them up, and you're like, man, this person came in with this and he ended up with this. Like, wow, like there's no way I could have picked that at triage. So I've kind of learned from my clinical experience that the body's weird, and 2 different blokes can experience vastly different symptoms of, heart attack. And speaking of heart attack, man, we've had some crazy, crazy news. Roden, the bodybuilder, he died of a heart attack apparently. And also now, what's his name? Not Kai Green. I want to say Kai Green. Carly Muscle has also had a heart attack. Now, he lived, and he apparently had a left artery 100% blocked. Now, your left anterior descending, I think that's what he had, and it was 100% blocked. That guy usually feeds the left ventricle of the heart. Now, the left ventricle of the heart is the main pump of your heart, pumps blood to all the rest of your body. The right ventricle pumps blood into the pulmonary circulation. So your left ventricle is the most muscular, and basically he had a complete blockage of the artery feeding blood to the muscle of the left ventricle, which is the main pump. 100% blockage. That's bad, man. Usually people die with that, right? I mean, people die with all sorts of blockages in the heart, but he's a very, very lucky man. I think Carly Muscle's, 40 odd as well. Roden was 46 and he passed away from a heart attack. It's really ironic to me, man, that these people supposedly at the peak of their fitness, representing fitness through bodybuilding, and these people are dropping dead. Now, we've had in the last 5 years, we've lost quite a lot of people in the bodybuilding industry, which is basically a symbol, a sign that these people are not representing health at all. And bodybuilding seems to be very, very unhealthy. And it saddens me, man, because, I don't know, these people have a very large voice and they touch a lot of people. And I guess they are, I don't know if they're the wrong example, but they represent something different to health. And even though we love to see them and their bodies are unbelievable, unfortunately, the peak of fitness seems to be unhealthy. And that's something that I kind of struggle with, but that's the way it is. Sometimes, these beautiful physiques have nothing to do with health. This is why I always say health is number one. It has to be number one, man. You go to the gym to get healthy and fit, right? It's ironic that, the person that goes to the McDonald's to get his burger dies of a heart attack at 46. And the guy that goes to the gym also dies at 46. It's weird, man. It's a weird thing. Very concerning. I hope the rest of these guys in that same generation learn something from this and they kind of, save themselves. But it's really sad. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.